Good morning, madam. I'm Sherlock Holmes, and this is my friend and assistant, Dr. Watson. You may feel free to speak in front of him. I see that you are shivering. Please, I'll get you a cup of hot tea.
It's not the cold that's making me shiver. It's fear, Mr. Holmes.
You mustn't be afraid. We shall help you.
I can't stand the strain any longer. I will go mad if it continues. I've no one to turn to except one man who cares for me. And although I can't pay for your services now, in a month I will be married, and will then have my own income.
Please don't concern yourself with payment, madam. My profession is its own reward. Now please, tell us how we might be of service.
Don't think, Mr. Holmes, that my terror is simply the imagination of a nervous woman. You are famous for sorting out real dangers from imagined ones, so I came from your help. My name is Helen Stoner, and I live with my stepfather, Dr. Grimesby Roylott, the last survivor of the Roylott family of Stoke-Moran in West Surrey.
The name sounds familiar.
The Roylotts were once one of the richest families in England, but now only a few acres of land in the house, which is heavily mortgaged, has survived. My stepfather realized that he would have to earn his own living, so, with the money borrowed, he went to medical school and established his own large and successful practice in Calcutta, India. This was brought to an abrupt end when Dr. Roylott suspected his native butler of robbing him and beat the man to death. The doctor was imprisoned for many years and returned to England a defeated and depressed man. However, during his stay in India, Dr. Roylott married my mother, Miss Stoner, the young widow of a British Army officer serving there. My sister Julia and I were only 2 at the time. Mother had made a very comfortable income, more than £1,000 a year, and in her will she left that sum to Dr. Roylott, as long as Julia and I lived with him. However, when Julia and I married, part of that £1,000 would go to each of us. The will took effect 8 years later, when my mom died. We left London after her death, and Dr. Roylott took Julia and I to live with him in his old family house at Stoke-Moran. The money my mother had left us was enough for all of our wants. But a terrible change came to my stepfather about this time. Despite the happy welcomes of his old friends and neighbors, Dr. Roylott shut himself in the old house and only came out to quarrel with those who came close to the place. Violent temper seemed to have inherited in the men of the Roylott family. In my stepfather's case, these led to several brawls which ended in court. The local people then took to running from him, not only because of his uncontrollable anger, but because of his immense strength. Last week, he hurled a blacksmith over a wall into a stream, and it was only by paying over all the money I could gather that I kept him out of court. His only friends seemed to be the herds of wandering gypsies who are allowed to camp on the estate. In return, they let him travel with them, sometimes for weeks at a time. He also has a passion for Indian animals, and from time to time, several are sent over from India. Right now, he has a cheetah and a baboon wandering freely over the grounds of the estate. The villagers fear the animals as much as they fear my stepfather. You can see, Mr. Holmes, that my poor sister Julia and I didn't have happy lives. No servants would work for Dr. Roylott, and we cared for the big house ourselves. Julia was only 30 when she died 2 years ago.
How did your sister die?
Strangely, I fear. You can well understand that living the life I described, Julia and I had no friends our age. However, my mother had a sister, Miss Honora Westfield, and Dr. Roylott permitted us to visit her occasionally. 2 years ago, during a Christmas visit, Julia and I made it there. Julia met a naval officer. They soon fell in love and became engaged. When I returned to Stokemoor and told my stepfather of her plans, he didn't object. But 2 weeks before her wedding day, a terrible thing happened.
Please, Miss Stoner, give me the exact details.
I can do that easily, for every moment of that dreadful time is very clear in my memory. Let me begin by explaining that the house we occupy only one area. The first bedroom is Dr. Roylott's, the second is my sister's, and the third my own. There are no doors connecting them, but they all open into the same corridor.
And the windows of these rooms?
They face the lawn. That horrible night, Dr. Roylott had gone to his room early, but Julia knew he wasn't asleep, for she smelled his strong Indian cigars. Annoyed by the smoke, she left her room and came to mine. At 11 o'clock, she got up to leave, but at the door she paused and looked at me. She asked me if I had heard anyone whistle during the night. I told her I hadn't and asked why. She said during the last few nights, about 3 a.m, a low, clear whistle woke me. I couldn't tell where it came from. Perhaps the lawn. I told her that was probably those wretched gypsies. She then asked why I didn't hear them too. I told her that I'm a heavy sleeper, and she's the light one. She said that she was sure it was nothing and closed my door. A few minutes later, I heard her turn the key in her lock.
Did you and your sister Julia always lock your bedrooms at night?
Always. With the doctor's cheetah and baboon running loose, we felt safer that way.
Of course, please go on.
I couldn't sleep that night. It was almost as if I had the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. It was a stormy night. The wind was howling and the rain was beating against the windows. Suddenly, I heard the wild scream. It was my sister's voice. I ran from my bed and rushed into the corridor. As I opened my door, I heard a low whistle, like the one Julia had described. And a few moments later, I heard a heavy clanging sound, as if something heavy had fallen. I ran to my sister's door and found it unlocked and swinging on its hinges, with Julia clinging to it, swaying, almost like a drunkard. Her face was white with terror. Her hands groped towards me for help. As I caught her in my arms, her knees gave way and she fell to the ground, writhing and convulsing in pain. I bent over her and she suddenly shrieked out, "Oh my God, Helen!" It was the band, the Speckled Band. She lifted her hand weakly and pointed to Dr. Roylott's room. Then another convulsion seized her. I rushed out, calling loudly for my stepfather and meeting him as he opened his door in his dressing gown. When he reached Julia's side, she was unconscious. Even though Dr. Roylott sent for a doctor from the village, Julia died without ever regaining consciousness.
Miss Stoner, are you certain about the whistle and the clanging sound?
I could have sworn I heard it, but maybe the storm was playing tricks on me.
Was your sister dressed?
No, she was in her nightgown, but she was holding a box of matches in her right hand and the charred stump in her right.
That means she was trying to light a lamp when she became frightened. Did the police investigate your sister's death?
Very carefully, especially since my stepfather's behavior had been strange, but the police couldn't find any cause of death. Julia's door had been locked from the inside and her windows had been locked. The walls and floors were examined and found perfectly solid, and the room has no chimney. No, it seems certain that my sister was alone when she met her death.
Were there any marks of violence on her?
None.
Signs of poison?
The doctor examined her but found nothing.
What do you think she died of?
Pure fear. A terrifying shock. But I have no idea what frightened her.
Were gypsies camping on the estate at the time?
Yes.
And what did she mean when she referred to a speckled band?
At first, I thought Julia was just delirious. Then I thought that she meant the band of people, the gypsies. They do wear spotted handkerchiefs on their heads, so she might have been referring to that.
I'm not satisfied. This all goes much deeper. Please go on.
All that happened 2 years ago, and my life has been lonelier than ever until now. About a month ago, a friend, whom I'd known for many years, asked me to marry him. My stepfather didn't object, and we're planning a spring wedding.
Then it seems you're about to begin a happier part of your life.
That's what I believed. But 2 days ago, my stepfather had some workers start in to repair on our side of the house. My bedroom became dusty, so I had to move into the room in which my sister had died and sleep in her very bed. Last night, as I lay there thinking of her terrible death, I suddenly heard a low whistle, the very same whistle Julia had described to me, the whistle that announced her death. I jumped up and lit the lamp, but saw nothing. I was too shaken to return to bed, so I got dressed and sat there, waiting for daylight. When it came, I slept out, hired a cart, and drove to Leatherhead. There, I boarded the train to London, and you.
That was very wise of you, but you haven't told me everything.
But I have.
You're shooting your stepfather, Miss Stoner.
Dr. Roylott's a strong man. Perhaps he doesn't even know his own strength.
There are 1,000 details I need to know. Miss Stoner, we haven't a moment to lose. I must come and examine Stroke Moran today, and examine the rooms. Can this be done without your stepfather knowing?
I'm sure we can arrange that. Dr. Roylott said he was coming into London today on an important business that would probably last all day.
Excellent. Watson and I shall be there. What are your plans for today?
I have 2 errands to run to take care of in town, but I shall return on the 12 o'clock train.
And we shall be there early in the afternoon. I too have some business matters to attend to.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. And you too, Dr. Watson. My heart is lightened since I have confided my troubles to you.
What do you make of it all, Watson?
A dark and sinister business.
Yet if Miss Stoner was correct in saying that the bedroom's floor and windows are solid, and no one could have entered through the door and windows, then her sister must have been alone when she met her mysterious end.
But what are those whistles and the strange words of the dying woman? A speckled band?
I don't know.
Well, we know that the gypsies were on the ground and they were friends of Dr. Roylott's, and we could guess that the doctor wanted to prevent his stepdaughter's marriage. Perhaps we had them frightened her, and a metallic clang might have been caused by the gypsies at the shutters.
I don't quite agree, and that's why we're going to Stroke Morgan today. What's that noise? Who is that? What the...
What do you use, Holmes?
It's my name, but who are you?
Dr. Gimsey Roylott of Stoke Moran.
Indeed, Doctor. Please have a seat.
I do nothing of the kind. I followed my stepdaughter here. What kind of nonsense has she been telling you?
My, the weather's a bit chilly.
What has she been telling you?
I hear that the crocus are going to bloom well this year.
Ignore me, will you? I know you. You are Holmes, the meddler. Holmes, the busybody. Holmes, the Scotland Yard jack-in-the-box.
Your speech is most amusing. When you leave, close the door. I feel a draft.
I'll go in my had my say. Don't you dare meddle in my business. I'm a dangerous man to oppose. See that you stay out of my business, or I'll guarantee you'll regret it. Yeah, run away.
Well, he seems to be a friendly person. I'm not as big as him, but if he had stayed, I could have shown him that my strength could definitely match his. How dare he call me part of Scotland Yard? That degrading term, but I only hope, I hope he won't punish Miss Stoner for coming here. And now, Watson, I have some business to attend to at the Hall of Official Records. See you later. I saw the will of Dr. Roylot's wife, and he determined that the current value of her inheritance had to be figured out of the worth of her present investments. Her yearly income was to the family was about £750. Each daughter was to receive £250 yearly upon her marriage.
If that happened, a doctor would not have much to live on.
Correct. So through my morning work, I proved that Dr. Roylott had strong motives into preventing Julia's marriage and Helen's marriage now. And so, Watson, since this old man knows we are looking into his affairs, we dare not delay. I'll call a cab and we shall be off. Oh, and bring your gun with you. That's always an excellent argument when you're up a man with that temper.
I've been waiting so eagerly for you. Everything has worked out perfectly. Dr. Roylott has gone to town and will be back before evening.
We have already met the doctor. He came into our office right after you left.
Good heavens, he followed me! That man is so cunning. I know I am never safe with him.
Dr. Roylott is the one to be on guard, for you will soon find that someone more cunning than himself is on his trail. But all you need to do, Miss Stoner, is to lock yourself in your room tonight. If he gets found, we shall take you to the safety of your aunt's house. Now, you must take us to examine the house, so we can examine the rooms. Is this your room?
No, this one was my sister's, and then that one next to it is my stepfather's.
Why have repairs started in your bedroom? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the wall.
There isn't. I believe it was an excuse for me to move from my room.
Maybe so. On the other side of this room is the quarter that your bedroom doors open into, correct?
Yes.
And does the quarter have windows?
No.
So no one could have gotten in from that side. Now we'll examine the rooms from the inside. Where does this bell ring?
Oh, to the housekeeper's room. Why do you ask?
It looks newer than the other furnishings.
Yes, it was put in a couple years ago, but my sister never used it. We always got what we wanted ourselves.
It would seem like an unnecessary expense. It's a dummy. It's not even attached to a wire. It can't possibly ring a bell. It's only on a hook up there in the vent. How strange.
I didn't even notice that.
Very strange. But there's another point in this room. Why would a builder open an air vent to another room when they can just as easily open it to the outside? Tell me, when was the air vent put in?
Probably around the same time as the bell rope.
What was that?
That's what I suspected. Most interesting changes. Bells, which don't ring bells, and ventilators that don't ventilate. Now I'd like to see your stepfather's bedroom. Miss Stoner,
Yes.
what's in here?
Oh, my stepfather's business papers.
Have you actually seen them inside?
Once, some years ago.
Could there be a cat in it?
Oh, what an absurd idea!
Not so.
We don't have a cat, but my stepfather does keep a cheetah and a baboon.
Well, that little saucer of milk could hardly satisfy a big cheetah.
Thank you, that's quite settled. Wait, what is this? It's a wicked world, Watson. Especially when a clever man turns his brains to crime. I've seen enough. Now I shall go and have a walk on the lawn.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, where's Watson?
I told him to go vent his room.
Ah, very smart, very smart.
Now, Miss Stoner, you must do it exactly as I tell you. Your life may depend on this.
Whatever you tell me, Mr. Holmes.
Then listen carefully. The bedroom window faces the road, pulling on the other side. Me and Watson will be there. Step on the to bed. Place a lamp in the window to signal us. Then you are to go to your old room, and then we'll come over to your house, where we can spend the night and find out what's causing the strange noises.
Why, Mr. Holmes, I believe you already know that.
Perhaps I do, but we must leave now, for if Dr. Roylott returned and found us here, all would be lost. I have some doubts about taking you with me tonight, Watson. There's great danger.
If you think I could be of help, then I'd certainly go along, but what did you see in those rooms that makes you believe they're all danger?
I saw nothing unusual except for the bell rope and the ventilator, but I knew we'd find an event before we ever followed Helen to Stoke Moran.
How did you know?
Do you remember when Miss Stoner was telling us her story this morning? She said her sister smelled Dr. Roylott's Indian cigars. So, of course, I deduced that there had to be an opening between the two rooms. It had to be one small enough or else the police would have noticed it.
But is there anything suspicious about that?
Only the coincidence that a vent is built, a bell cord is hung, and then a lady who sleeps beneath them dies.
I cannot see any connection.
Do you notice anything strange about the bed?
Why, no.
It was clamped to the floor so it could not be moved. It always had to be directly below the vent in the bell cord. Or call it a rope, for there was never meant to ring a bell.
I'm beginning to see what you're hinting at. I pray we are in the time to prevent another horrible crime.
I do too. For when a doctor becomes a criminal, he's the shrewdest kind, for he has both the nerve and the knowledge. Look, there, that's our signal. Let's go. We must be absolutely silent. We must sit without a light, or he'll see it through the vent. We must not sleep. Have your pistol ready. I'll sit in the bed, and you sit here on the dresser. Did you see it, Watson? No, no.
What does it mean?
It means that's all over. Perhaps it's for the best. Now, come on. Let's go see Volt's room. The band! The Speckled Band! It's a swamp adder. The deadliest snake in India. Dr. Roylott must have died within 10 seconds after he was bitten. The criminal has become the victim of a crime he planned for another.
And now would you please fill me on what I don't already know? How do you manage to solve this case in time to prevent another terrible crime?
At first, I came to the wrong conclusion myself. I, too, thought that Julia Stoner's dying words were about a band that referred to the gypsies. But when I examined the house, I realized that whatever killed Julia Stoner, and was now threatening her sister, Helen, could not have been from the outside. When I realized that the bell pull was a dummy, and noticed that the vent, and then I saw that the bed was clamped to the floor, I suspected that the rope was used as a bridge to pass something through, from the doctor's room, through the ventilator, and onto the bed. The idea of a snake instantly occurred to me. Knowing that the doctor kept creatures from India as pets, the idea of using poison, which would not show up in any chemical test, would occur to a clever and ruthless man, especially one with medical training from the Far East. And then it would take a very sharp-eyed police to detect the 2 tiny punctures that the poison fangs did their work.
But what was the whistle?
The doctor had to get the snake back into his room. She had probably trained it by use of milk to return at the signal using the whistle. He'd put the snake through the vent, and once through, it would crawl down the rope and land on the bed. Sooner or later, it would attack its victim.
And he came to these conclusions after examining Miss Stoner's room?
Yes. I hadn't even seen the doctor's bedroom, but when I did, everything was confirmed. When I examined his chair, the very one in which he now sits, dead, I saw that he had a habit of standing on it to reach the ventilator. And the safe, the saucer of milk, and the dog leash removed any doubts.
And the clanging Miss Stoner heard?
Her stepfather closing the safe once he had the snake back inside.
And when he waited in the darkness of Miss Stoner's room, what made you suddenly attack the rope?
I heard the creature hiss, so I attacked it.
And that drove it back through the vent?
Yes, but the blows of my cane roused its temper, so it attacked the first person it saw, its own master. In this way, I'm probably responsible for Dr. Roylott's death, but it won't upset me.
Certainly not. What have you done is not only to solve the mystery of the death of Julius Stoner, but to save the life of Helen Stoner as well.
Miss Stoner, I'm sad to say that your stepfather has died,
It will take you to your aunt's house right away.
and I'll make sure to notify the police. Was something bothering you?
I can't understand why you didn't inform the police of Dr. Roylott's crime and the real truth of how he died.
I felt that Helen Stoner had been through enough tragedy in her life, and to expose her stepfather for the murderer would only extend her grief. This way she can begin a new happy life with her future husband, without the shame and the scandal that would have followed her, if the truth were known. And besides, the police would have been embarrassed had I revealed that the great Sherlock Holmes had solved a crime which they had blundered.
Yes, indeed, you are the great Sherlock Holmes.